When I first moved into Oakwood Estates, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. It looked like the perfect place to level up my life and my career. The lawns were immaculate, all the mailboxes matched, and there wasn't a single misplaced toy in sight. But what I didn't know was that this picture-perfect community came with a very high price, and that price was Karen Wilkins, the president of the Homeowners Association. From the moment I arrived, Karen acted like she was the supreme ruler of Oakwood Estates. I'll never forget her greeting me with a tight-lipped smile, a clipboard tucked under her arm like a weapon. "Welcome," she said, her voice dripping with authority. "I'm Karen Wilkins, HOA president. I trust you'll review the community guidelines immediately. There are 137 rules, and I enforce every single one." She then handed me a binder so thick it could have stopped a bullet. That binder, I would soon learn, was the first shot fired in our neighborhood war. It all started innocently enough. I work in IT, mostly from home, so good internet is everything. Last summer, I decided to upgrade my home office by installing a small satellite dish. I'm a by-the-book kind of guy, so I did everything right. I submitted the paperwork, provided diagrams, and even offered to paint the dish to match the roof so it would be practically invisible. The HOA approved it, no problem, but just 3 days after it was installed, I heard a sharp, demanding knock on my door. And there she was, Karen, in all her glory. Platinum blonde bob, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. She pointed a dramatic finger toward my roof. "That satellite dish is a violation," she announced, as if she'd just uncovered a major crime. "It's an eyesore. Remove it within 24 hours. My patience wore thin instantly. "Actually, Karen," I said, trying to stay calm, "I submitted all the paperwork and got full approval. I have the documents right here." I'd already started keeping a folder by the door just for her. She snatched the papers from my hand, her eyes narrowing as she scanned them. "This approval is conditional," she declared, waving her hand dismissively. "The board has reconsidered. It disrupts the aesthetic harmony of our community." That's when I noticed she had a very similar dish tucked away behind her own chimney. "The FCC protects my right to install this," I said calmly, "and your own HOA approved it. It's staying." I took my documents back and gently closed the door. I didn't realize it then, but I had just declared war. In the weeks that followed, the violation notices started piling up. My grass was apparently 1/4 of an inch too high. My garbage can was left at the curb 15 minutes too long. And apparently, parking in my own driveway for more than 8 hours was now a federal offense. Every notice had Karen's dramatic signature, followed by a little smiley face that felt more like a threat. I fought back, challenging every single notice with photos and timestamps, and I made sure to copy the entire HOA board on every email. It got to the point where even the other board members were getting tired of her. One of them accidentally hit reply all to an email chain, writing, "We have more important matters to deal with than the position of Mr. Mitchell's garbage can." Karen's response was immediate, accusing them of not taking their duties seriously. The next battle was over security cameras. With a rise in package thefts in the area, I decided to install a few cameras on my house. Again, I followed the rules, submitted diagrams, and got approval from the architectural committee, a committee Karen wasn't on. Sure enough, 2 days later, I came home from grocery shopping to find Karen in my front yard with a tape measure, treating it like a crime scene. "These cameras capture public areas and neighboring properties," she snapped. "That's a privacy violation. Remove them by tomorrow or face $500 a day in fines." I just set my groceries down on the porch. "The cameras only point at my property, Karen, and the committee approved them." I showed her the approval email on my phone. Her lips tightened into a thin line. "I'm overriding their decision," she announced before storming off, nearly tripping over my sprinkler head. Later that evening, I was reviewing the camera footage, and something caught my eye. Around 3 p.m., a figure had walked up to the side of my house, holding what looked like a spray can. When I zoomed in, my blood ran cold. It was Karen. She had tried to spray paint my satellite dish black, probably so she could claim it was an unapproved color. Thankfully, she couldn't reach it without a ladder. I immediately sent the footage to the board with a polite email asking for them to step in. Their response: they encouraged us to work it out as neighbors. In other words, they were terrified of her and wanted nothing to do with it. But the final straw came the following weekend. I'd spent the day with my parents, who live a couple of hours away. When I got home Sunday evening, I noticed something strange on the side of my house, tucked right under the eaves. It was a small, black object, a camera. It wasn't mine, and it was aimed directly at my backyard. My first thought was to just rip it off the wall, but then my professional IT instincts kicked in. I paused, took a deep breath, and started planning my next move. Karen had finally crossed a line she couldn't uncross. Instead of confronting the cameras right away, I decided to document them first. I took photos of their positions and did a careful sweep of the area. That's when I found two more devices, one aimed at my front door, the other right at my home office window. These weren't for security, they were for surveillance. And I had a pretty good idea who put them there. Rather than going straight to Karen, I called the non-emergency police line. Within an hour, two officers were at my house. They documented the cameras and confirmed they were actively transmitting to some unknown receiver. They were taking this seriously. See, installing surveillance equipment on someone else's property without their permission is illegal. Depending on the intent, it could be criminal trespass, invasion of privacy, or even stalking. Do you have any idea who might have done this? One officer asked, but his tone told me he probably already knew the answer. I do, I replied. And I also have security footage from my own cameras that might help. I invited them inside to take a look, and sure enough, the footage showed Karen, clear as day, sneaking onto my property that morning with a toolbox in her hand, methodically installing her little spy cameras while I was out. The officers just shook their heads as they watched. We'll need a copy of this, the senior officer said grimly. This is a serious criminal matter. While they were still gathering evidence, a car pulled into my driveway. It was Karen, clipboard in hand, probably ready to slap me with another violation notice. The look on her face when she saw the police cruiser was just priceless. It was a mix of shock, indignation, and for the first time, genuine fear. Ma'am, are you Karen Wilkins? One officer asked. Yes, I'm the HOA president, she said, her usual smug smile faltering. Is there a problem, officer? She added, her voice now trembling. We're investigating unauthorized surveillance equipment on this property. Do you know anything about that? Her whole confident act just crumbled in seconds. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered, backing away toward her car. I just hear about a landscaping notice. The officer stayed calm. We have video evidence of you installing the devices. You need to stay here while we sort this out. What happened next was both uncomfortable and deeply satisfying. The police confirmed the cameras were transmitting directly to a receiver in Karen's house. As she cycled through a long list of excuses, first claiming she had the right as HOA president, then insisting she thought I was running an illegal business, and finally just admitting she was mad that people weren't respecting her authority, they explained just how serious her actions were. The junior officer escorted Karen to the police cruiser while the senior officer laid out the next steps for me. She's being arrested for criminal trespass, invasion of privacy, and illegal surveillance, he explained. You'll need to appear in court, but with your video footage, this case is pretty clear-cut. As Karen was being led away, neighbors started coming out of their homes, completely stunned. Her face was bright red, and she was shouting, "This is a mistake. I was just doing my job," but nobody came to her defense. In fact, a few of them were filming the whole thing on their phones. The next morning, I got an email from the HOA vice president. An emergency meeting had been called, and Karen was unanimously removed from her position, pending the outcome of the legal proceedings. The email even included a formal apology. Later that day, my doorbell rang. It was Corinne's husband, looking exhausted and embarrassed. "I came to apologize," he said quietly. "Corinne's been released on bail. She has a restraining order and has to stay 100 yards away from your property." He then handed me an envelope. "This is to cover any damages or legal fees. She doesn't know I'm doing this." Inside was a check for $5,000, the exact amount Corinne had been threatening me with for months. As he turned to leave, he added, "Her lawyer says she's facing significant fines and maybe even probation. Her real estate business is finished, too. Who's going to hire an agent who was arrested for spying on their neighbors?" He walked away, leaving me there with a check in my hand and the feeling that justice, while sometimes slow, can be incredibly thorough when it finally arrives. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this.